everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing the next installment of my The Skinny On series, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about soup. So I'm going to be going over kind of the nutritional lowdown on soup and whether or not I think you should be eating it or eating it often. So yeah, let's just get started. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, and in my opinion probably the most important thing about soup, is it is very, very high in sodium. So it's got a ton of salt in it, and why we want to avoid high salt foods. For the first reason, it could potentially raise your blood pressure. A lot of people are prone to having their blood pressure spike after eating a lot of salt, or just having a high salt diet in general. So the average person, you only want to have about 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day. And for those people that already have diagnosed high blood pressure or other related diseases or disorders, they are only supposed to have about 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day. So that is actually pretty hard because that's pretty low. So just keep those numbers in mind when I'm talking about sodium. The other thing about sodium that definitely affects everyone is it's going to make you bloat. So the body is a really, really intense and strict machine. It can't just fluctuate and just kind of do whatever depending on what you eat. It really tightly controls everything that goes on inside your body. So when you take in all of this salt, so you have like a whole bowl of soup and you take in hundreds of milligrams of sodium, what your body's going to do is it's going to have to dilute that salt and so your body can stay at equilibrium. And so it's going to make you retain water. It's also probably going to make you a little thirsty so that you will drink water so you can just retain that much more. So by eating something that's really high in salt or just having a really high salt diet in general, you're going to end up holding on to a lot more water so you can balance out that salt. So by holding on to water, you're going to feel a little puffy, a little squishy, a little bloated, and that's just never a really good feeling. So high salt equals bloat. So sodium is definitely the first and most important thing I wanted to mention about soup, but the second thing is a lot of soups are cream-based. So by cream-based, I mean there is a lot of cream added into the recipes of these soups. It's what they are based on. So if you think of like obviously cream of mushroom soup, obviously that's going to have cream in it. Hello, it says cream in the name. Something like New England clam chowder, I mean it's white and thick and creamy. Obviously that's going to have a lot of cream in it. But then also there's some sneaky ones like tomato soup. Tomato soup is bright red. It doesn't look like thick and creamy, but a lot of times it has a lot of cream in it. So if you think of like that really delicious tomato soup from Panera, it has cream in it. So why we want to worry about these cream-based soups is cream is extremely, extremely high in calories and also high in saturated fat. Saturated fat is the one that we want to kind of avoid in our diets, keep it pretty low. So if you're eating cream-based soups all the time, I mean you're basically drinking heavy cream. So that's just another thing to think about, especially the ones that are sneaky like tomato soup. So you may be thinking like, oh, I'm just having a bowl of soup for lunch, you know, I'm being really light and healthy, but if it has a lot of cream in it, that totally defeats the purpose. I mean, you're just drinking cream, you're drinking fat and calories pretty much. So that is just another thing to think about when it comes to soup. A lot of them have cream in it or are completely cream-based. And if you're not sure whether or not something is like sneaky and has cream in it and you want to find out, you can always just read the label. The label will tell you everything you need to know, everything that is inside of that can of soup. But then if you're out to eat, sometimes you can't always get those ingredients. But if you're in like a chain, like I mentioned the Panera earlier, you can go on their website and they'll always list ingredients for each of their food items. Obviously, if you're in a non-chain restaurant, that's not really going to be an option for you, but just something to keep in mind. And then the last thing I wanted to say about soup is overall, it's really not that nutritionally adequate. I mean, a lot of times I do have a decent amount of vegetables in there, so you might get like a serving, maybe a half a serving. So nothing too crazy. As far as protein, there might be a little bit of chicken or a little bit of seafood, but pretty much it never actually amounts to one serving of protein. And then lastly, it might have some like noodles or maybe some rice or something in there. So you might get a little bit of carbs and maybe fiber, but I mean, overall, for the amount of sodium and potentially cream you're taking in, it's really not very nutritionally worth it. It just doesn't have enough benefit, doesn't have enough bang for your buck, I feel like. So overall, soup is just kind of, nutritionally speaking, a dud. It really just doesn't offer up that many benefits, especially against the amount of salt and potentially cream you're going to be taking in as well. So when you weigh the two, it's just kind of like, it's just not that great. So, you know, soup is good for like every once in a while if you want something like warm and comforting. But as far as like a meal, like for example, if you want to have a bowl of soup every day for lunch, it's just really not going to do much for you. And also, since it's low in protein, low in fiber, it's not going to keep you full. You know, some of them that are cream based are going to have a lot of fat. That might help keep you full, but there's much better ways to stay full than taking in a bunch of heavy cream. So generally not going to keep you full, really not offering up that much nutritional benefit. So it's just not something you want to be eating all the time. Like I said, every once in a while it's kind of good and comforting, but overall really just not something that should be a staple in your diet by any means. So normally in these The Skinny On videos, I usually have a couple different products to show you guys and to go over the label to look at like the key nutrients that you want to be watching out for in these foods. But since soup generally, I mean, like I said, the main thing is looking out for sodium. They're all really high in sodium, so I didn't really find it necessary to compare and contrast. Plus that's something so quick and easy that you can glance at yourself. I do have just one can of soup here just to kind of give you guys a reference. This is just the Progresso Vegetable Classics Minestrone Soup. So this one has, per serving, which is 1 cup, 690 milligrams of sodium. So let's just say you're on a low sodium diet, you can only have about 1,500 milligrams a day. This is just about half of your sodium intake, and that is just in 1 little cup of soup. I mean, that is crazy. Imagine when you go out to a restaurant and you get a bowl of soup that's like at least double that. Like, holy salt. I mean, it's just too much sodium. No one needs to be eating that much sodium, especially on a regular basis. So while this does provide a decent amount of vegetables, maybe a little protein, maybe a little fiber, honestly, there's just much better ways to get in your veggies, especially, but also that protein and fiber. You don't need all this added salt along with it. I mean, it's just kind of like almost cancels out the fact that you're getting some vegetables in there and maybe a little protein and fiber. So always look at the label, check out the sodium. Generally, it's going to be high. Even the less sodium ones, like I know, for example, that like Health Valley organic brand, I just know off the top of my head, they have like a less sodium. It's not low sodium. To be low sodium, it would have to be below 140 milligrams. But their less sodium soup is still like 480 milligrams per serving, which is definitely better than 700, but it's still really high for just a little cup of something. I mean, especially when it's not really giving you any benefits or going to make you full. So basically, it's just so high in salt that I just don't really see the point of eating this a lot. Maybe every once in a while, like I said, but generally something you just don't really need. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this video. I think I kind of covered the bases when it comes to soup. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I really like making them. Like I said in my last The Skinny On video, I have a whole list of things that I'm going to be doing in the future. So slowly but surely I'll be cranking those out, and I hope that you guys subscribe to my channel so you make sure to never miss any of them in the future. And as always, give it a thumbs up if you learned something. It helps me spread this information so that everyone can just know these little tips and tricks to make it a little bit easier for them to eat healthy. So I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video right now, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!